All right. How's my family? All right, all right. Y'all ready to get busy? Okay. I heard Dr. Luke talking about giving up some stuff. Today we want to get right into what we're going to deal with. I want to pray for those that need prayer. But first of all, I got to share some things with you so you can try to pinpoint some areas as we minister and prepare you for some things. So much going on in the world, and there's so much going on in our lives personally that we haven't really dealt with or had an opportunity to deal with. Some things that are going on in our lives, we've tried to deal with it on our own, and if you think about it, some things are just difficult to get rid of. Have you ever thought you got rid of something and it seemed like it keeps creeping back? There's reasons for that. And so we want to, those that need prayer today, after we point out some things, we're going to be praying for you right afterwards. You may be seated as we prepare to go into this. I'm going to start in Proverbs chapter 26 at verse 2. And just to get us started here, you don't have to stand. Just take your seat for a moment. I also want to tell you that I want to give you a little heads up. When I start talking about some things that you may need to deal with personally, because today I'm dealing with overcoming demonic parasitic forces. Overcoming demonic parasitic forces. And we want to see just what we may need to do when it comes to our lives. Proverbs 26:2, like a fluttering sparrow, like a fluttering sparrow, like a flying swallow, so a curse without cause shall not alight, or a curse without a cause cannot come. There's a reason why certain things happen in our lives and keep on reappearing and keep returning. And we want to address some of that today. But the first thing we must do is remove the conditions and environment that has been conducive to these adverse forces. There's a certain environment that adverse forces, parasitic forces, dwell in. And so we got to deal with that. In other words, we got to get to the root of the cause. The first book that I wrote, The Roots of Deliverance. We have to deal with some root causes. And so we want to attack some things today. Adverse spiritual forces, along with demonic parasitic forces, cannot come back or re-enter into your life without the conditions which are conducive to them being available. There has to be an atmosphere. There has to be an environment. There has to be a cause, because it don't happen without a cause. A curse can't come without a cause. So certain things in our lives, and it may not be your fault. A lot of times people are victims of things. And we really become victim of circumstances, especially when we're young. Certain things happen in our lives we have no control over, and it follows us into our adulthood. So we call on, as we move into this, we call on the healing and deliverance energy from within an array. An array, for those that may not know what I just said, An is the sacrificial father, Ne is the beloved mother, blessed mother, and Ray is the willing son. This is the Trinity. This is the original Trinity that included the woman. And as time went on, the woman was completely removed from that Holy Trinity. Then, once we call on that energy, that spirit of Ray, then work to heal the root is very necessary to deal with these adverse forces that have no mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical home to return to. So we're going to deal with some stuff today. You know, for some of y'all that may not know, this ministry is a deliverance ministry. And we help people get set free from things, and we deal with it when it's time to deal with it. It's not quite like it used to be when we started our ministry. This was a week after week thing, because so many people that came to our ministry needed help, healing, and deliverance from these adverse forces. Adverse forces are like rats, which feed on garbage in our yard. We can keep on casting the rats out, but unless we clean up the garbage by which they are feeding, then they will keep coming back. Yeshua made it clear to us in Matthew chapter 12. Let's take a look at that real quick as we move forward. My whole objection today is to deal with whatever you may recognize as we move on here, so you can leave here today a little freer than you were when you came. Is that all right? Okay, Matthew chapter 12, I'm going to look at verse 43 through 45. And it reads, when an unclean spirit goes out of a man, he goes through dry places seeking rest and finds none. Then he says, I will return to my house from which I came. And when he comes, he finds it empty, swept, and put in order. Then he goes and takes with him 7 other spirits, more wicked than himself. And they enter and dwell there. And the last state of that man is worse than the first. So shall it also be with this wicked generation. And so it's not enough just to get set free or made free from something, but the house got to be filled. And when the house is not filled, as we just read, the spirit that left will go and get 7 other spirits more wicked than itself. And they will take over the house. And the last state is going to be worse. In other words, you'd be better off to keep what you got if you're not ready to fill the house with the things that need to be filled, with the spiritual things that need to be filled in the house. You would be better off just to keep what you got. As a matter of fact, a lot of times we can't get delivered from certain things is because the Most High knows we are not ready to be delivered. Because we're not going to put in the work that needs to be put in once we have cleaned our house up. If you don't put the work in, you're going to be worse off in the end. Atonism or at oneism, atonement, all the same word. Atonement, you heard of atonement. At oneism, if you break the word down, atonement, that's what you see, at one. At oneism, atonism, is thereby focused on cleaning up the garbage. Our focus is cleaning up the garbage, even more than casting out the demons, because it is the key to bringing true and lasting liberation. So it's not so much of getting rid of something as it is cleaning up the garbage. Because if I clean up the garbage, then whatever I'm dealing with, I've been dealing with, that thing that just seemed to keep creeping back into my life, it creeps back into my life because all the garbage hasn't been cleaned up. And once we clean that up, once we are honest with ourselves and deal with some things that could be very personal in our lives that we haven't quite dealt with yet, and I'm gonna get to a point here where I'm gonna start naming off some things, but until we really deal with that, it continues to come back over and over again. You can go 3 or 4 years and think, hey, I finally got rid of that thing, and then out of nowhere, here it comes. Are y'all there? And so we got to deal with some stuff so our lives can flow the way the Most High intended our lives to flow. And so, again, we want to deal with the things to bring lasting liberation. A parasite is an organism that lives off another organism. Demonic spiritual parasites are fallen heavenly beings that thrive off stealing life and the life forces from members of humanity through wars. This is how lives are stolen by the enemy, through the wars. Mankind control and induce death. That's what war is all about. When we have wars, lives are being taken. plagues, pestilence, disease, viruses, parasites. All these things are here in the earth to make our lives a living hell and to bring death to us. When a person has parasites in their life, I'm talking about physical parasites now. When there's parasites within this physical body, you need to know where those things come from. And they're not from heaven. They are not things that are connected to the divine, but they're things that came down with the fallen heavenly angels, and they're here to make our lives once again a living hell, to eat our lives. And this is one of the things that the book of Job talked about, the cankerworm, the palmer worm, and the locusts that come to eat away at your life. And this is what this is all about. And so once you remove the things that's allowing them to stay alive and to feed off of you, that's what parasites do. Once we remove those things, then we get in a position where we can really live. Are y'all still there? Parasites, they're nothing but demons. They feed off of, and they feed off of other life forces. And the thing that you got to understand about parasites and demons, let me back up a minute. When you have, when a person is dealing with parasites physically, they are told to stop feeding themselves or eating the things that feed the parasite. It's kind of like cancer. When your person has cancer, you have to stop feeding the cancer what keeps it alive. And so you got to stop eating sugar, because sugar feeds cancer. The things that will feed the cancer, you got to stop putting it in your system so you can kill the thing. You starve it to death, and then you give it whatever it needs so you can kill it off. Are y'all still there? And so this is why we have to understand when we talk about spiritual parasites and physical parasites, we're talking about the things that come to eat away at your life, to cause you problems. Let me name a couple of things I wrote down here. For instance, migraine headaches is known to have a thread worm, and it brings migraine headaches. And see, a lot of times the things that people deal with physically has a lot to do with parasites. And when you go to the doctor, they give you strong medication. You know, you get the strongest headache medicine you can get. They trying to deal with it. But I've known people with migraine headaches, and it seems like they can't never get rid of them. And it could just be that I need to deal with this tread worm that's causing me these headaches. Are y'all still there? Schizophrenic comes from a parasite called toxoplasmosis, and this parasite brings people problems being schizo. You know schizo people, they around you every day. You know, they change their mind all the time. They can't stay focused on nothing. And a lot of times we're not realizing that these kind of things that keep us wishy-washy. And you know, you ever met anybody that make a promise and break it, and then you know they can't seem to realize who they are themselves? Well, a lot of times people are dealing with a worm, dealing with parasites that causes them to act like this, because parasites get inside of your brain. And even this last one concerning schizophrenic people, you can get it from cats. Cats that eat rats and cats that you find on the streets. And when you change in their litter box, these are where these things hide. And you can get a hold of one of them and cause you to become schizophrenic, and people think you crazy. A lot of people that's in psych wards, they're not crazy. They need to be cleansed from the things that's making them look like they're crazy. Are y'all there? So this is a big problem, and people don't realize what's going on. Many of your doctors, when you go to them, they find other ways to treat you, but you don't hear too many of them talking to you about parasites, unless it's just very obvious that there's something else going on. But many of them don't talk to you about that. Now, I want to hit a couple of things as we prepare ourselves to start praying for you. I just wanted to share that because many times, see, that's why you got to watch what you eat. My daughter opened up a can of those bush beans, and this is about a week ago, and she warmed it up, and she put it in the plate, and she's kind of like me. You know, I check everything that I'm getting ready to put in my mouth. I'm just leery of stuff. That's why me and Pastor eat mostly all of our meals at home, where I have control over what I'm doing. I don't know who's in that kitchen. I don't know what they got in that kitchen. Are y'all there? And so I know it's nice to go out into the restaurant and eat. I'm not knocking that, but personally, I got an issue with going out too much. And I only have two spots that I try to go to when I go, and that's the Yard House or either P.F. Chang. All right? So I'm very picky about where I go. I mean, even as healthy as Chipotle, they got organic this and organic that, but they were in the news about a month ago about something. So you cannot trust what people give you. You better start paying attention to what you're putting in your mouth and where you sitting, where you placing your feet and putting stuff in your mouth. Are y'all still there? So food is not only a physical matter, but it is also a spiritual matter. In fact, food and your mental, spiritual, and emotional life are interwoven to the point that people actually become in bondage to food. I guarantee you that some of y'all are in bondage to food and you don't think you are. In bondage to food. And so, yeah, and sugar. Sugar is an addictive thing. Most of y'all know that, right? Sugar, that's why some people just got to always have something sweet. Because we naturally want something sweet in our system because of who we are. Physically, your body wants something sweet. But you got to be careful that you're putting the right kind of sweets inside of you. And white sugar feeds parasites, and at the same time, not only does it feed parasites that's within your system, but it's addictive. It's just like a drug. It's just like crack cocaine. It's just like anything else. It's like heroin. It's like anything else. That's what sugar is. And some of you all are sitting here, you know you're addicted to sugar. You know you're addicted to food. All right? See, and part of what you're going to have to do as I get you prepared here, you're going to have to be honest with yourself. See, this is an opportunity for you to get some things happening in your life so you can get yourself together. But if you don't want to be honest, you can just walk right out of the door and stay a sugar addict and stay addicted to food and never get nothing done in your life. Are y'all still there? And so this is all on you. In fact, food, again, and your mental, spiritual, and emotional life are interwoven. Food is very important in our lives. I heard about a woman that had some problems with her stomach, and she couldn't eat solid food anymore. And so she told them, if I have to drink my meal and go through my veins and all that, she said, I'd just rather die. Because you don't know how important food is until you don't have it. That's why fasting is so important. You know, the average person have a difficult time fasting because you are so programmed to eat. I love to eat too, but I just watch what I eat. I'm very picky about what I eat. And you have to get that way, and you have to know what to eat. You have to know how to treat this temple, because this is the only one you got. You don't have another one. And so you can't be, whatever they tell you on TV that's good for your food and good for your diet, you can't pay no attention to them folk. You better be looking up some stuff for yourself in order to keep yourself healthy. And because so many people are ruled by their stomach, much pain and suffering results. Let me go get Philippians chapter 3 and read that into your hearing so you can know that I'm just not talking, but it's in the Word. It's in the Bible. Somebody says it's in the Bible. Yeah, Philippians chapter 3, look at verse 18, or listen to verse 18 with me here. For many walk, of whom I have told you often, and now tell you even weeping, that they are enemies of the cross. They're enemies of the cross of the Messiah. 19, whose end is their destruction, whose God is their belly, and whose glory is in their shame, who set their mind on earthly things. And so the scripture speaks about people that have made their God their belly, addicted to food, addicted to sugar, addicted to sweets. Pornography and lust are rooted in a lack of true care. Listen to it. It's rooted in a lack of true care. This is one of those that nobody would admit to. But it's rooted, pornography and lust are rooted in the lack of true care, divine love, and balanced affection. Balanced affection. In other words, there's some unmet needs there that came from family, that came from friends. Some of your needs weren't properly met, and it causes you to run to pornography and lust because you are seeking to have a need met that was never properly met in your life. So a person grows up not feeling cared for, loved, or balanced in their affection. And then there's a good chance that they will turn to pornography or lust to fulfill that need which was never met by their parents or family. So it's a reason, and we're talking about getting to the root of things. You're not just looking at stuff to be looking at it, but you look at it because there's an unmet need. There's something that wasn't fulfilled in my life, and I'm trying to get it somewhere else because I don't know where else to get it. Are y'all still there? There are people that have been rejected. Now I'm talking about rejection. There are people that have been rejected as a child by their family and or their peers, whereby as they are now adults, they suffer from a terrible bondage to rejection, which makes it difficult to develop or maintain meaningful relationships with others. Many people will mess up a relationship before it can get going good because of rejection. I'm going to mess this up now so I won't be rejected later. Are y'all there? And it's a spirit of rejection. I prayed for a woman many years ago, and she was hooked on crack cocaine. And as I questioned her, we discovered that it was a spirit of rejection on her. And as we cast out rejection and dealt with that rejection spirit, the last thing we heard about her was she was married to a minister and had got off that crack and was moved on with her life. But it was, a lot of times the stuff that we deal with, cocaine and all the other mess that we get into, pornography included, it's just something that we do. It is not the very root of the problem, but I'm doing it because there's something in my life that I can't deal with right. Are y'all there? It's just a part of the, I'm using it to help pacify something. And so I thought that was very powerful. And you know, you never know what you're going to do when you're dealing with people and helping people get set free. But to know that rejection in her was so strong that she was feeding it with drugs. And once the rejection left, then there was no need for any more drugs. There was no need for anything outside to help me deal with the rejection. What you do with rejection, you cast out the devil. You cast out whatever you got to cast out, because demons attach to things that we don't know what to do with. It's garbage. And they attach themselves to it and keep you going a year after year after year. Is somebody still there with me? And so a simple no. If somebody tells you no, it can be viewed as rejection. Just by saying no. You know, you ask somebody something, they say no, you view it as being rejected. And when that happens, this type of person feels alone. Rejection makes a person feel all alone. In fact, this type of person has difficulty when it comes to being corrected, because they perceive it as an attack on them personally, which results in feeling rejected, which causes them to fall into the bondage of rebellion, which sets them up for further rejection. So it's a chain reaction. And that's why when you deal with the rejection, if you were rejected by your parents, if you were given away at adoption, Some psychologist told me, this hasn't been very long ago, a psychologist was telling me, I said, you know, my mother died when I was 18 months old, and I never knew my father. And he told me, he said, if you don't know your natural parents, then there is something wrong with you. There's something you're going to have to deal with in your life, because anytime you don't have your natural parents in your life, even though you grew up and you went on with your life and life seems to be going pretty good for you, without your natural parents, something naturally is going to be wrong. Are y'all still there? And this could be part of why people have such a hard time fitting in, because not only is that a rejection, but that's abandonment. And so you were abandoned as a child, and that's something that I had to deal with when I first got in deliverance ministry. The Holy Spirit showed me that I felt abandoned when I went to my mother's door and knocked. And I used to call her Velma, because everybody else said Velma. That's what my grandmother told me. And when I was knocking on her door, bedroom door, and saying Velma, she never came to the door, the Holy Spirit showed me that you felt abandonment as a child, that young. And so there's abandonment issues. Are y'all still with me? All right. So our first step is to deal with the wound that caused it, because there is a cause. It did not just happen. There's a cause behind everything that happens. Even if you don't know the cause, there's still a cause. So until you confront and challenge these trespassers in your life, on the grounds of the law of the Spirit of life in Yeshua, they will remain. We are only as sick as our secrets. We are only as sick as our secrets, and I can't get my life on track like it needs to be if I'm continue to be secretive and don't want people to know certain things. Now, you don't have to get nervous, because nobody's going to tell you to tell everybody what's going on with you. But you got to be honest with you. You got to be honest with you and recognize that there is a real issue here that I need to really give over to the Most High, cast my cares on the Most High, and get myself free from whatever it is that could be plaguing me. There is a cause to why you keep doing what you're doing. There is a cause why you can't seem to get yourself together in certain areas of your life. There is a cause behind it, and we've got to get to the cause if we want to get rid of it. We can't keep playing games. We only as sick as our secret. And God doesn't call you, the Most High doesn't call you by your shame. He calls you by your name. Doesn't call you by your shame, but by your name. And so we need to allow the Most High to work with us as we continue to move through some of these things, all right? Now, where there's fruit, where there's problems that you can recognize, that's the fruit. Where there's fruit, there's a root. And that's what we want to deal with today. People have gone for years knocking off leaves and branches only to have them return. Hebrews 12 and 15 talks about the bitter root that springs up and causes trouble, not only for you, but it defiles other people as well. And so we have to recognize that the very things that's happening in our lives is not only hurting me, but it hurt other people that I love, other people that I'm connected to. So, and I asked you already, do you have certain things that keep returning back to your life? You thought you got rid of it, and here it is again. The reason for that is you have not cut off the root. That's all it is to it. Deep digging is needed to destroy the tree and to lay a proper foundation. You can read that in Luke chapter 6, verse 48 and 49, where Yeshua talked about the man that built his house on the sand, and the storm came and blew it away because it didn't have a foundation. Then he talked about the second man who built it, he dug deep. He dug deep and got deep into the ground, and he built his house on that which was solid. And so the winds came and beat on the house, and the storm could not move that house because it was on a solid foundation. Are y'all there? And so the thing that you got to get out of that Yeshua spoke about in Luke chapter 6, that the wind and the storm is going to beat on both houses. See, it's going to be, it beat on the house that was on a good foundation, and it beat on the house that wasn't on a good foundation. But the foundation determines if it's going to stand during the storm or if it's going to fall. Are y'all there? Now, we talked about the roots of bitterness. So many people are bitter because of things that have happened in their lives. But that bitterness, as I stated in Hebrews 12:15, that bitterness will spring up in your life, and it cause you trouble, and it causes trouble for everybody else. It will defile other people when you have that bitterness in your life. Resentments, anger, confusion in your mind, scrambled thoughts, mind control, witchcraft, shame and guilt, abortion. Many people don't realize that when you have an abortion, and that is murder. I don't care what the world told you, but it's murder. And when you have an abortion, they don't tell you, the world don't tell you how that will affect your life. They don't tell you at all. They just tell you, go down to the clinic, pro-choice, get rid of it. You don't need to be tied up with that right now. But they don't tell you the repercussions that come from doing that act of abortion and murder. And not only the person that did it, but the person that consented to it. Both of them got an issue. If I say, yeah, go on and get an abortion, honey, and I'm just as guilty as the person that went and got the abortion. And I got murder hanging on me and murder hanging around me. And until I properly deal with that, I'm not going to be able to have the peace that I really want to have in my life. Are y'all still there? Leviathan and Python. I don't know if you heard of both of them, but these are demonic forces that squeeze the life out of you. These are demonic forces that keep you from growing spiritually. If you ever had a hard time understanding the word, understanding the scriptures, so many people have a hard time understanding the true faith that we've been bringing to you for the last year or so. People have a hard time dealing with the truth and growing from the truth because of these particular spirits that lay dormant in your life, and these spirits that keep the life squeezed out of you. A lot of times when we pray with people that deal with this Leviathan and Python, I know how real it is, because people actually hit the ground and start doing like this. But these are things that get in our lives, and unless we are exposed to what it is, it'll just keep plaguing us all our life, and we keep scratching our head. How come I can't get it? How come I'm not growing? And so you got to know that there's a cause behind it all. So, have you ever had your palm read for fun? Have you ever did that? It was for fun for whoever may have done it, but it was serious business when it came to demonic forces. It was a setup because you were dabbling in something that was not divine, and it causes us problems. Are y'all there? It causes us problems. Have you ever played with a Ouija board? See? If you played with it one time and never got no prayer over it, deliverance over it, those kind of things will keep you from growing spiritually and will wreak havoc in your life. Because what you thought was fun, the enemy took advantage of it, because you got to remember who we're dealing with. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, not to explain nothing to you. Ain't no devil going to tell you, if you play with this, this is going to happen. But the enemy makes things look like it's fun, and then you do it being ignorant to what it really is, and then you end up having problems all of your life not knowing what you just did. Are y'all still with me? I'm just about done here, and we're going to start praying for anybody that feel like they need prayer in any of these areas. Now, we dealt with lust, and now we're dealing with sexual confusion. This is what's going on in the world now, that have your son and your daughter go to the same bathroom. your son and somebody else's daughter. And you know, are y'all paying attention to what's going on? They trying to confuse the gender. Why? Because they're working, the enemy is working very hard and diligently to say that sex doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's male, it doesn't matter if it's female, and what they're doing is getting rid of the gender, so to be nothing but gender confusion. Are y'all there? And so you got to know who's behind this. You know, and they dressed in suits and they have on a tie and they trying their best to convince us that it's all right. It's all right. We don't need to be tied to that. It is nothing but the gay agenda. It is nothing but that LB, whoever they are. It's nothing but that group that's trying their best to destroy. What happens when women start being with women and men start being with men? What happens when there's no such thing as gender? What happens to the human race when that happens? Who do you think wants to destroy the human race and make us all confused about who we are? Who wants to do that? So they're bringing us all kind of mess, sexual confusion, gender annihilation, addictions in family lines. We deal with that. Addiction in family lines. Let me break it down. The mother was on drugs. The grandmother, prior to that, had a addiction problem, and prior to that, the great-great-grandmother. Anytime you have three things happening the same in the family, you know, one could be addicted to alcohol, the other one could have been addicted to gambling, the other could have been addicted to drugs. It doesn't matter what they're addicted to. The problem is addiction. And so we have to deal with any addictions that you can recognize in your family line, and so that can stop with you. You don't want that stuff to pass on to your children. Say it stops with me. So, people, and we dealt with this before, but you need to think about it. People that have money blocks, you know, just can't seem to hold on to nothing, can't seem to get a hold of nothing. These are money blocks, and it comes from our parents and stuff that we were taught. You know, you ever heard somebody say, your parent or anybody close to you say, money don't grow on trees? Okay, if you know, and some of the other statements that was made about money. Some people actually have a problem with people that have money because of their money blocks and their education concerning money. This is a real issue, and it blocks us and it keeps us from having anything. Can't save a dime. There's a problem with that. If you get some money and you can't save nothing, but every time you get something you got to spend it, there's an issue. And you come up with a reason why it needs to be spent. You know, I need to get this, I need to get that. What you need to do is eat. See, that's a need. You need to eat. You need to drink water. You need sleep. You see, but you don't need to be running to the mall after you get a couple of hundred, what you feel like is extra dollars. You don't have no dollars. And then you get a couple of $100 and you feel the need, the mall is calling you. And you're going to get rid of what you just got a hold of. Forgiveness has to be dealt with. Now, some things that people do to you, you can't just say, oh, I forgive them, because I don't even agree with that. You hurt one of my family members or killed one of my family members, you ain't going to see me on TV talking about I forgive them. You know, because, and even they say, would you forgive him? No. I caught myself. No. Why? Because they haven't repented. Remember the lesson we did on that? I'm not forgiving them until he or she repent. I'm not forgiving them. They don't deserve it. I will get things straight in my own heart with the Most High, but I'm not going to look at you and say, hey, I forgive you. No, I don't. No, I don't. Because Yeshua said, if they repent, forgive them. See, we do things backwards. So some things people did to you, you can't forgive them right now. But you gotta tell the Most High, I really can't forgive them, but I know I need to, and I would like to. That's enough to get you some help. So, generational curses. I just talked about that. When you got 3 different things happening in the family, you know, everybody on drugs, everybody on welfare, everybody, you know, the three or 4 people in the family has been in the same thing, you know that you've got to know that there's a curse running around in the family. And you have the power and the authority to break that. And it's nothing deep. That's the beautiful thing about all of this. It's nothing deep. You just got to acknowledge it, get rid of it. It's really that simple. And you have to renounce some things in your life. Anytime you deal with an antichrist spirit, what is that? Christ should be Messiah. Remember that. Every time you see the word Christ, it should be Messiah. When you look in the original text, you won't see Christ. You'll see Messiah. Somebody changed it. Okay? But anyway, so you have to deal with these spirits that's against the divinity. And you have to deal with that. And anytime you were in a religion, any religion that was against the true faith, those things have to be repented of. So you have to realize how deep this goes. And really, I've shared some things with you, but I want you to start pinpointing. If you heard anything that you can pinpoint in your own life, we want to prepare ourselves to deal with that and pray over you, anoint you, and pray over you. But you got to be honest. Church, you got to be honest, and I'm not going to be up here begging you to get any help. Let me go back and say something about witchcraft. Witchcraft is manipulation. And you know how parents make statements like, after all I've done for you? That's manipulation. That's witchcraft. Now, we don't call it witchcraft, but that's exactly what it is, because witchcraft is about control. And anytime you want to control somebody, you manipulate them. And that's a real popular one. After all I've done for you, what do you want? Why are you telling me that? Because you want to make me feel guilty. You want to control me through guilt, through manipulation, so I can do whatever it is you want me to do. That's manipulation. If I don't want to do it, I just don't want to do it. So you don't need to be putting no guilt trip on me, telling me, you know, all I've done and all I've done and all I did in the past. And nobody want to hear all that. If I don't want to do it, I just ain't going to do it. You know, you don't need to be trying to manipulate me and withhold from me. And, of course, you know, when you're in a marriage or situation and you got a wife that understands her role, then we got manipulation there. What happens? You close up the shop. You withhold sex as a tool of manipulation. You know, I know you thinking to yourself, yeah, he's gonna be running around here the next 2-3 days and thinking that we gonna, you know, and it ain't gonna work. Why? Because I need something and you don't want to get it for me. So I know how to get mine. Now, believe it or not, this works both ways. You know, men play the same kind of game. So we have to make sure that we're not manipulating each other as spouses. And be careful. Now, listen to me. If you can identify with any of this, rejection, some people are rejected from the womb. You know, how did that happen? The woman tells her man or husband, I'm pregnant. And immediately he says, get rid of it. Rejection from the womb. And she decides to keep it, but the child inside, there's a book entitled The Life of the Unborn Child. And it talks about what's going on with that baby that's being carried. And that baby can sense rejection in the womb, and that's why a lot of children are born handicapped and something wrong with them because they didn't want to come out to this world where they knew they were going to be rejected. So they purposely don't want to come. If you can identify with anything that I talked about, rejection, anger, any of it, I need you to come down quickly so we can anoint you and have you to go through some renunciation. We're going to take you through renunciation, and then we're going to